Okay, so thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me here today. So I'm going to talk about the bioeconomy, and thank you for introducing the word bioeconomy just before my presentation. So maybe first a few words about who we are in AgriDay. So yes, AgriDay is a think tank for farmers and farm businesses. It's actually, we're part of an association that is called Société des Agriculteurs de France. We are based in Paris. So Société des Agriculteurs de France, France's Farmers Society, was created in the 19th century by farmers from the Paris area. And the purpose at the beginning was how to make recommendations to farmers so that they would take appropriate decisions strategically when they how to make the right decisions relative to what is at stake in their current context. Okay, and it's still our purpose today. So we are an association. We are funded by our members, and also by the fact that we own actually the building where we are settled in Paris. So actually we have a number of companies that are in our building. So this provides us our independence, our economic independence. So we are apolitical and independent think tank. Which is pretty unusual. It's a pretty unusual business model. You know, you don't have that many think tanks in France. You don't have that many think tanks in agriculture. So we are one of the few. So what is our mission? It's actually to, you know, our baseline, réfléchir, partager, avancer. So think, share, move forward. This really sums up how we work, how we process. So we are a small team of less than 10 people. Actually, we're 9 people. And what we do is that we continue to think, to reflect, sharing, you know, in an open way, sharing our reflections with as many stakeholders as possible. So we are more in the economic world than the research world, but we also welcome researchers that can be in biology, can be in agronomy, can be in economics or in rural law as well, sustainable development, you know, a number of topics. The economic world in farming or in the farm industry, food, non-food uses, so upstream, downstream. So as wide as possible. So we interact with this wide network of stakeholders and also policymakers, so that we build our expertise based on the expertise of experts and stakeholders. And then, since we have a sort of out-of-the-box way of interacting with people, then we try to make recommendations to policymakers and also to decision makers in the economic world based on our interactions with experts and stakeholders. So this is our website. You can have a look at our publications and working groups, etc. So I'm going to focus here on a very recent work that we have very recently published. It's this position paper, so land-based bioeconomy enabling farm resilience. So why is the bioeconomy important for the farming sector? That's the first question. So the bioeconomy, I think, is better known in the research world than in the farming world. So this is usually a time frame that we use to indicate what have been the major milestones in the past decade, actually, in the EU and also in France. indicating to the farming world, the major steps that were taken in terms of policy making, both in the EU and in France. So first, the first bioeconomy strategies worldwide were provided at the European Union and also in the United States in 2012. And currently, after all these steps, we are currently in 2025, finally indicating or going to a new bioeconomy strategy at the European level, at the EU level, that was very recently announced. The European Commission released what they called a compass for European competitiveness, and this is in this text that it had announced a next bioeconomy strategy. So the first one that was published in 2012 was actually updated in 2018, and since then nothing really happened in terms of anything tagged as bioeconomy EU-wide. So since then, what happened really? Well, there were a number of national bioeconomy strategies in several EU member states, including France, in 2018. Okay, of course, the Paris Agreement on climate change in 2015, so everybody knows that. Then there were a number of steps taken in the recent years in terms of carbon farming. What is carbon farming? What kind of practices, of measures, methodologies to measure storing carbon in soils or in biomass, how to capture greenhouse gases from the atmosphere and store it in soil or in biomass, how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from farming practices, things like that. With the certification framework that was published at the EU level, but also at the French level with the Label Bas Carbone since 2019. So these steps, yes, they were taken both at the level of policy making, but also methodologies, how to measure that, how to prove this. But then really nothing happened purely in the bioeconomy. So we are really happy that right now, 2025 is an important date because some new stuff is going to happen and be released by the end of the year by the European Commission. So how have we worked on the bioeconomy in my think tank? Actually, I've been working in AgriDay for 11 years now, and before that, as Stephanie mentioned, I used to work for USDA, the US Department of Agriculture, in the American Embassy in Paris. And this is where I discovered what bioeconomy means, really. Because as I indicated before, in 2012, there was a first American bioeconomy strategy that was announced. It was the blueprint on the bioeconomy that was released by the White House on that year. I thought really it was a very interesting concept that was also new at the European level. And at that time, it was the EU Directorate for Research that was in charge of the bioeconomy strategy. And right now, there has been a move from purely research to more agriculture, but also the environment. So currently, the next European bioeconomy strategy will be driven by the Directorate General inside the European Commission, by the Directorate General for Environment. So it's not only research, it comes more to the economic world right now, which is, I think, an interesting indicator. So in my think tank, we have organized a number of conferences because we work in working groups. We organize events, and we try to organize or to be a platform, inviting stakeholders to talk to each other and exchange views, and then try to build a common vision of topics, and bioeconomy is one of these topics. So in the past few years, I'm indicating here two other publications that we published on the bioeconomy, and what we tried to identify was what is the position of farmers inside the concept of the bioeconomy. How do they position? Are they only providers of feedstocks? Are they only providers of biomass that is then going to be processed into a diversity of products? Or are they more than that? So that was our first question, okay, in a first working group that we put together, and that led to this publication in the far right. So we called it Bioeconomy, Farm Businesses and Society, a Shared Emergency. Shared emergency because of climate change, but not only because of climate change, also because of the economic imperative for farmers to continue their business and to be resilient. Then the second publication in the bottom of this slide is the second working group that we had put together had more an innovation and perspective on the bioeconomy. So it was biotech innovation in the startup mode is the title. And so we tried to identify a number of startups that were working on the bioeconomy at that time, and that provided solutions so that farming transitions or transitions in farming, in food, but also in industry transition that would be more bio-based industry would be successful. Okay, so this is really a very simple representation of our vision of how farmers are positioned in the bioeconomy. After this work in working groups. So farmers are not only providers of biomass. Yes, they do supply feedstocks to the industry, to the food industry, non-food industries like the energy, green chemistry, biomaterials, biorefineries. Yes, but not only. They also make experimentations on their own farms. And sometimes they are members or contributors to living labs. They are also stakeholders in sustainable agriculture, sustainable farming practices. So the bioeconomy is not only the processing of biomass, but it's also the production, the sustainable production of biomass. And so this is another way that farmers are stakeholders in the bioeconomy. Of course, strengthened by carbon farming, agroecological practices, and of course, maximizing photosynthesis, so the efficiency actually of the biomass production. But they are also people who make value, add value to some byproducts of the industry, that they can use either in feed, for example, animal feed, or that they can use in bio-based solutions that are inputs to their own farming. So they are part of this circular bioeconomy, themselves recycling some of the byproducts, industry byproducts. So this is our most recent publication, a land-based bioeconomy enabling farming resilience. So we just released it, and it's the first time I present it in English. So sorry if I'm not really fluent in this presentation. We had actually the major presentation of this publication, we had it yesterday, which is why I was not here yesterday. So we presented it yesterday afternoon with a number of stakeholders, the working group participants that led to this publication. And actually we had this publication, we published it with this association here, Association Chimie du Végétal, so the Plant-Based Chemistry Association. That is an association of a number of industrials who are all in plant-based chemistry. So two people signed this publication, the director of this association and myself. So Sophie Marquis and myself signed it because we worked together to put together a working group that met all across the year 2024. With these 10 meetings, we had a number of consultations of experts, scientists, economists, people in the farming business. As you see, cooperatives, agricultural cooperatives are very proactive in the bioeconomy and how to make it a reality in various areas of France, but also across Europe. We had yesterday a very good presentation by a representative of the COPA-COGECA, that is the European farmers and agricultural cooperatives represented at the European level in Brussels, and that are working to make the bioeconomy a reality for farmers and also the agribusiness companies across Europe. So what happened? What do we say in this publication? Well, these are the keywords. I usually operate with keywords in my head, so I thought it was interesting to have a look at the keywords of this publication. So you see, it's a very upstream oriented publication or a vision of the bioeconomy. You can have many different aspects of the bioeconomy. You can have the industry one, the research one. This is really the farming upstream view, because you see how agricultural or biomass is important. Our focus was actually very much on the farming biomass and how to make the most of it, really, so that it would be a contributor to farming resilience, especially economic farming resilience, because in bioeconomy, well, you have economy. And the purpose right now for farmers is how to continue their business in the next years, despite all these pressures from climate change, from uncertainty in the markets, market uncertainty, geopolitical uncertainties, etc. So this is the way that we see the bioeconomy, and what kind of what is the scope of the bioeconomy in our vision, and what kind of challenges it is supposed to address. So the various challenges, as you see here on this slide, is encompasses a number of sovereignties. So not only food sovereignty, but also industrial and energy sovereignty. So this is at the processing level. You know, all this industry, food, non-food industry, sustainability, but also competitiveness, because again, there is the word economy in the word bioeconomy. On the right-hand side, but also on the left-hand side, farming practices and sustainable farming practices that need to be monetized for farmers. Because if we want the bioeconomy to be widespread, then it needs to be rewarded by, financially rewarding for farmers. So this really sums up the whole vision, and with, of course, an overall focus on decarbonization and more precisely defossilization of the whole economy, not only farming and food, but also these are some key figures of the bioeconomy that are published by a number of EU-wide organizations. So you see, it's a business. It's a number of businesses. The sales turnover are up on this slide. It's actually 2,500 billion euros at the EU level, which is quite a lot. France, I think, is number 2 as part of the EU member states after Germany. But you also have big ones like Italy is very big also in the bioeconomy in Europe, and many others. A number of European member states have had their own national strategies in the bioeconomy, and these are mainly countries with strong farming sector, food industry, forestry industry as well. And so this is another very interesting number here is the number of biorefineries. There is a third of European biorefineries are actually located in France. So this is a key number. And also, if you see here between France and the EU, between 5 and 10 or 11% of chemistry is actually is based on bio-based feedstock today, right now, already. And the potential, depending on the source or depending on the estimation, the potential is between 20 and 40%. So there is a potential, a pretty high potential increase in this percentage. So what do we say in this publication? Well, this is the table of contents. Actually, that was the easiest way to present it. So the first part was what has happened already, like the success stories that have already happened. So farming and the agro-industry are already stakeholders of a circular and land-based bioeconomy. Then the second part is there is a wide diversity of policy incentives to the bioeconomy, but they are not really balanced and consistent with one another, and also with the available biomass. So we need more consistency among them. And then the last part is how to make the bioeconomy more competitive, because currently it's not competitive, and without political incentives, then it wouldn't exist. And how can it be a major contributor to farming resilience? So this is a very simple summary of the first part. So like the success stories that are already in place in France and in other countries as well, actually. Well, the main success stories right now are in the bioenergy sector. So you have a number of biofuels that have already biofuels available in the everyday gas station that you have across the country. They all contain bio-based products. So you have biodiesel, you have bioethanol that are part of the gasoline that is sold in the gas stations. And the other example is anaerobic digesters and biogas production that is all across the country. So these are success stories. So there are biorefineries across the country. Some territories, some regions are already involved in enabling this bioeconomy to exist. And actually, there has been a number of articles, analysis, studies, positions published across the past, let's say, 30 years, worldwide, EU-wide, or in France, trying to oppose food and non-food uses of biomass, especially of agricultural biomass. And what has actually happened is that, in fact, we should not oppose them, but they are interlinked because food and non-food uses are interdependent and complementary, because they don't always use the same part of the same plant, but they also are actually stabilizing and securing markets. So it's actually exactly the opposite that is happening, and we have seen it because now we have a number of years back to see this. So economically speaking, the non-food uses of agricultural biomass is actually a positive contribution to markets. And this circularity is also a very important thing because maybe at first we were only thinking of primary biomass to be used in the bioeconomy and used to be processed into a diversity of products. But right now what we are seeing is that byproducts or products that were maybe considered as waste at first are now used to also add value and contribute to a number of value-added products. So that was the first part. The second part, the policy issues. Well, there are a number of policies, as I said, that are already in place. First, the knowledge. What do we know about what is available and what to make of it? Well, it's complicated because it's not only biomass stocks that need to be assessed, but it's flows of biomass. Flows of biomass across various regions, across various countries. And it's not easy to assess it, to measure it. And because there is this time frame dimension that is not always easy to identify. So you have these various scales, EU, country, regions. You have this biomass flow, and also where are the biorefineries located? Where is the industry located? So there are a number of observatories already in place, but they don't always use the same methodology to assess all this. So this makes it really complex. So there is a need to unify the methodology, the way that observatories operate, to have a clear and harmonized perception of what is going on. Decarbonization incentives. There are numerous incentives, of course. So SNBC is the France's national strategy for low carbon, and it's Stratégie nationale bas carbone in French. It's the overall national strategy to decarbonize the whole economy. But you also have this European Fit for 55 initiatives at the European level. You have the Label Bas Carbone, the carbon farming national certification framework. You have the European certification framework for carbon farming. So all these add up, and so the ambitions to decarbonize the economy are really high at several different horizons, like 2030, 2040, 2050. So all these incentives pile up, but they do not always are not always consistent with one another. So it makes it complicated for economic stakeholders to let's say to have a clear visibility of what is expected of them, and then how to meet all these several incentives or objectives at the same time, because sometimes they are not consistent. So of course, all these ambitions are really high, and this creates some tensions on the resources, on the resource of biomass. Because biomass, there is a lot that is demanded to biomass right now, because it has the potential to decarbonize various segments of the economy, like the energy segment or the construction segment. There are strong ambitions in these sectors, but then biomass needs to be used for food first, of course, food and feed. So it creates tensions. There has been a number of studies about that. There is a service at the level of the Prime Minister in France that is called the ecological planification secretariat that has made a number of studies, and they concluded that there is too much tension on the biomass. So choices need to be made, and priority choices, which is really complicated. So the real question now is how to make appropriate choices in what regions, for what biomass, and for what purpose. These are the main questions right now. And then farmers in the middle are like, okay, so what, what is my guide? I need a tool and I need to be accompanied in my choices so that I make the right decisions. And then the final point here is that public policies are not at the same maturity stage, depending on the market. So for bioenergies, yes, there are mature policies because they've been built for several decades now. But for bio-based materials and bio-based chemistry, they are still not high enough, or they are still not mature enough so that they would they need to be more powerful, to be higher incentives for bio-based products in constructions, for example, or in chemistry. We saw these percentages in this other slide that said 5 to 10% of bio-based products in the chemistry industry, and the potential is 20 to 40%. So we need more incentives. This slide presents really the conditions, the major conditions for a successful transition for farmers. So again, farmers are in the middle because most of our members are farmers. So this is our purpose. So how, not any farmer can embark into a diversification of its productions or a diversification of its method of producing biomass. So he or she needs a certain mindset. He needs to have this entrepreneurial vision of its own business. So he needs to be proactive and have a strategic approach of his business, and to imagine like a long-term process of his own farming business for the future. How the number one objective for farmers for their business is, how can my farm continue to be a farm in 10 years, 20 years? And how can I transmit it to someone else, either in the same family or outside? But how can I transmit it as a business in a good position, good financial, economic position? So he needs to be part of a chain, part of a value chain that is structured, that is organized. For example, mainly by interprofessions, interbranch organizations, and we saw a number of examples yesterday in our event that we organized to present this publication, like the linen, flaxseed, or the hemp interbranch organizations are really exemplary because they are really structuring these value chains really well, from upstream to downstream. The producing and the processing people are really working together, having some marketing perspectives as well. Farmers need support and advice recommendations that are legal, economic, technical, all kinds of recommendations by people who are really specialists in all these to make the right choices again. They need to consider the specificities of the land where they are, of the territory where they are based, because some local authorities are really embarked in the bioeconomy and do have some regional bioeconomy strategies. For example, in the north of France, in Normandy, in the eastern part of France, local authorities are really promoters and provide incentives, especially economic incentives to the farming sector to embark, or sometimes they fund research programs or facilitate industry development. And of course, the last one is the creation of value all across the value chain. It needs, if farmers do not get money for that, then they won't embark into it, because money is really the number one reason. It's fun to adopt new farming practices, but if it doesn't bring some more money, then they won't do it. So all these various words that you see in the blue part here is really how to monetize the co-benefits of these new farming practices that are good for water quality, carbon storage, biodiversity, regenerative agriculture, and there are a number of ways to monetize all these practices that are already in place, but only for a number of farmers right now. A few thousands of farmers, which is not nothing, do get some carbon credits, for example, for their farming practices, or are embarked into regenerative agriculture initiatives that are funded by private companies. And also PES are payments for environmental services. There are a few examples, but not enough right now, so that they are really incentivize a massification of these practices. So these are the main recommendations that we provide in these publications. So providing local references, I've covered that already. Local references that are that adopt harmonized methodologies. In fact, increasing the overall biomass production. Increasing biomass production seems to be crucial if we want to meet all these various targets and ambitions to decarbonize or defossilize several market segments of the economy. And actually, one of our recommendations is that on fertile land, we need to produce more of this agricultural biomass that has several, that meets several market needs. One biomass, like corn, for example, that can be used for feed, for food, but also for energy, also for green chemistry, etc. So, maximizing the efficiency of this biomass to meet several market demands at the same time, because there are tensions on biomass overall. Of course, it needs to make sense locally in certain lands, certain territory, where some processing plants are already in place. So we cannot produce any biomass anywhere. Plants need to be located as close as possible to biomass production that then needs to be produced in the best land possible, because of the soil conditions, the climatic conditions, the agronomic conditions of this location. For example, linen flax production well, Normandy is a very good region for that, because it's the right soil, it's the right climate, and also there are some processing plants over there. Consistent and balanced public initiatives, I covered that already, and also visibility. Visibility with labels, clean labels, needs to be enhanced at the consumer end, but also at the producer end, so that there would be more knowledge about the advantages of the bio-based products compared to the fossil-based products. So these were the major points of this publication. I have a number of issues here, hard copy issues of this publication. It's also available on our website. And we are currently in the process of translating a 4-page summary, and also these slides, the infographics. So if you're interested, they will be ready very soon.
Thank you very much.